Like Mr. Valdespino said, my name is Erin. I graduated from Americas High School, and I also graduated from the University of North Texas. It did take me 5 years, but I graduated with my education degree, so for about 1 semester I had to do student teaching. I actually started off at the University of Texas at San Antonio. I was there for 2 years and decided to transfer to follow a boyfriend. And it actually worked out for the better because I really enjoyed University of North Texas. It's kind of like a community college. You all have really small classes here. That's how it was for me at North Texas. And for me, it made a big difference. You know, I don't know if any of you have had really big classes yet, but when you're in a class with 300 students and the professor has no idea who you are, it kind of stinks. You know, coming from El Paso, a small town, you know, it's really not as small as we think it is, and going to a big city, it was really hard. My mom's a single parent, so it's only my sister and I, and we're a very tight-knit family. And going to another city, luckily I had my cousins in San Antonio, and that made a big difference, but when I went to Dallas, I had no family whatsoever. So I really had to become independent, and I think the hardest challenge that I faced was prioritizing my time. I had a full-time job. I worked at a daycare, and I was also going to school full-time. My mom couldn't help me pay for college, so I lived off of loans, which is always fun. And I also, like I said, I worked full-time. You know, it's funny when people hear loans and they're like, you owe so much in loans. Yeah, I owed a lot of money, but if I wouldn't have done it that way, I wouldn't have gotten where I am today. So don't let that hold you back. Yeah, it's hard to have to repay it once you get out of college, but without a college degree, let's be honest, what kind of jobs are you going to get nowadays? You know, there's research that's been done that with your bachelor's degree nowadays, it's equivalent to an associate's degree. A master's degree is equivalent to a bachelor's degree. So I'm 28 right now, and I'm going through my master's degree. Okay, don't give up. Okay, not all of us have it easy. I'm sure some of you have friends that mommy and daddy got to pay for everything. Maybe they got a full ride because of sports. But in the long run, when you finish, you know that you did it. Hopefully you all have a support system because it makes a difference. Okay? Maybe you all are the first ones to go to college. Maybe your parents went to college. Maybe your older siblings went to college. For our family, it was something that was definitely instilled in us. Most of our family have gone to college, and like I said, nowadays it's really a necessity. Unfortunately, society today, people that have bachelor's degrees can't get jobs. Okay, in the teaching field, plenty of people that have degrees and can't get a job. Okay, but don't let that stop you. And if you can't find a job here in El Paso, move. Okay, it's hard, especially for us females. It's even harder, but it teaches you a lot. And the reason why I came back was because of her. You know, her being without family, it's even harder. And now she has her cousins, you know, they go to daycare together. She has her grandparents. But being out on my own, it definitely taught me a lot. And I think if I would have stayed here in El Paso, I would have gotten caught up in the party life and hanging out with friends. And of course, you know, everybody has to have their fun. But after my first semester, I realized that I was wasting my time, you know, going out and partying. And it made me learn a lot. I was put on academic probation, and my mom said, you either pick up your grades or you're coming back home. What did I tell myself? Heck no, I'm not going back home. You know, I was 18, I wanted to be on my own, I didn't want to live in El Paso, and I overcame it, okay? But don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Nobody has it easy. We all have our own obstacles to overcome, and you can do it. But like I said, for some of us, it's a lot harder to go to a bigger university. My sister went to the University of Texas at Austin, and in her classes, she had 500 people. you know, and of course she had the football stars, the basketball stars. You think they ever went to class? No, they had their little tutors, you know, that would go for them, and she would get upset. Like I said, everybody has their own obstacles to overcome, and hopefully they get NBA jobs, NFL jobs, because I don't think they'll make it in the real world. But yeah, for those of you that like the small classes, there's plenty of universities that have small populations. My master's degree right now is online, and I love it. I can still do my full-time job of teaching. I can still spend time with my daughter and my family, and I don't have to worry about, you know, stopping my life to go to school. But like I said, it all comes down to your responsibilities, prioritizing your time. You know, it's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, but you all can do it. Stick with it, complete it, even if it takes you, you know, like it took me 5 years. Okay, most people should finish in 4, it took me 5. Don't let it stop you.
I got a question for you. Why did you go to UTSA? Like, what made you want to leave, other than just the fact that you wanted to leave?
Actually, I went to UTSA because that's where I got the most financial aid. So that's why I left. Like I said, my mom was a single parent. She couldn't really help me financially, so I lived off of financial aid.
You said that if you stayed in El Paso, you expect you would have attended a lot of parties. Are you implying more parties in El Paso than in San Antonio?
Well, because I had my friends here that I knew. In San Antonio, the only people I knew were my cousins. And obviously they're not angels either, but at least they kept me on track compared to friends.
So does that mean you're recommending going to some school where you don't know anybody to begin with?
It helps. It helps. I think when we leave high school, I mean, my best friend in high school is still my best friend now, and she stayed here and I left. Obviously, we had different experiences, but I think it really helped me. I think if I would have stayed, I would have definitely gotten caught up in the party life. And like I said, I had to be independent. Honestly, I didn't know how to cook. I never had to cook for myself, so I had to learn how to do all of that. So it really helped with my independence.
At any point when you were gone, especially at UTSA, that you would just drop everything and come home for those issues because you were homesick or you didn't know what you were doing, or?
No, I never got to the point where I wanted to come home. It just made me want to do it even more. I wanted to prove to myself and to my family that I could do it.
Other questions?
I have one. Did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher when you started school? Is that what you started in?
No, not at all. Actually, I wanted to be an orthodontist. And most of our family is teachers. And they all said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Stick with dental school. And it was obviously my destiny to be a teacher. But I love it.
So ultimately, what did you learn about yourself while you were attending school?
I think a lot of it has to do with our culture, with the Hispanic culture, you know, being a woman, and of course now I have to take care of a family. What I learned about myself is that nothing could stop me. The only thing that could stop me was myself. And like I said, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of obstacles. And like I said, the biggest one for me was prioritizing my time. You all know that, you know, a teacher tells you to read 2 chapters and your next class is 2 days from now. You're like, I could do it tomorrow. I can do it in the morning. Do we really do it? No. And I definitely had to learn. When I was in high school, I never had to study. I was very blessed with, you know, good study habits while I was in class, and I never studied. And the first time I took a test in college, it was like, oh my God, I have no idea what this is. And I had to teach myself how to study. And not everybody studies the same. You know, some people take down notes. Some people read and read and read and read and reread. For me, I had to learn my own study habits.
And how supportive was your family when you took off?
Oh, I was extremely supportive. I mean, my mom always told me if you need to come back home, you're always more than welcome to come back home. We have family in Houston. My aunt said if you want to come to Houston, you're more than welcome to come to Houston. And I actually did. A few summers I went and took care of my little cousins and went to a community college in Houston. So I kind of went to a lot of schools, but it really helped me to have smaller classes. And even now I work at an alternative school, so I have about 10 to 15 kids in every class. And I see for them the difference that it makes instead of being in a class with 30 kids, and we're talking about middle school kids, so they're 12, 13 years old. Stop, baby. And it makes a difference for them too. Even little things, knowing that they have brothers and sisters, knowing what their interests are. And when you're at a big campus, you don't get that. And it's kind of sad, especially because you're paying so much money. Make your counselors your best friends. In all honesty, I can't tell you how many people I know, they're like, yeah, I'm graduating next May. Come May, they're like, oh, I was short a credit, because their counselor never took the time to sit down with them and go over your graduation plan. Do it at home yourself. You know which classes you take, mark them off. Make sure after every semester you go see your counselor. Okay? It's extremely, extremely important, especially if you're going to transfer.
If you had the opportunity to go back, would you do things differently?
No, I wouldn't, just because obviously I am where I am today because of it. And actually, when I graduated from college, I actually got offered a job to stay in Dallas, and I didn't take it because I joined the Army. So that was a life-changing experience. And once I got out of the military, I started working in Oklahoma. And even that was a completely different experience. If you ever get a chance to live anywhere where the majority of the population is not Hispanic, it's a big difference. And it teaches you a lot about your culture. Any other questions?
Yeah, how proud was every one of you when you graduated?
It was a big accomplishment. Like I said, I'm not the first in my family, but it was still a big accomplishment. I am the oldest, so I had to set the way, for my sister, and it was a very big accomplishment. Everybody in my family was very, very proud, and like I said, even though I wasn't the first one, it's still a big accomplishment. It really is. Don't let people, put you down. Oh, you graduated from a small college, big wow. Compared to, oh my gosh, you graduated from the University of Texas. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't. As long as you have that diploma saying that you did it, you graduated, you have your bachelor's, that's all that matters.
And so I asked this question yesterday, and the answer is rather obvious, but was it all worth it?
Definitely. It's, especially as you get older, I mean, some of you are probably older than me, but, things start happening. You start being able to do stuff for yourself. You buy your first car, you buy your first house, you have your family. And, she's at the age now where she realizes what mommy does. And she goes to my school, and even though she knows the kids that I work with are not the greatest kids, she still tells people, oh, my mommy's a teacher. That's one of the greatest things is having, your kids, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews be proud of you. Because obviously they're the next generation and you want them to be even better than what you are.
Is that, just out of curiosity, is that something that you took as far as working there because it was available, or you actually applied for that district and that's where they put you, or?
It was actually the second interview that I went to. The first interview that I went to was Valley View Middle School. And my mom works in Socorro District. She's been there forever. And at first I was really afraid. I was like, wow, I don't know if I can do this. But it was actually a blessing in disguise. I love working there. And hopefully I've made an impact on those kids.
Other questions or comments?
When I was younger, I got braces when I was really young. I was actually in 2nd grade. They started working on my teeth. And the second time that I got braces, the orthodontist, I guess you could say I was being a pepa, and the orthodontist was talking about what he was going to do to my teeth. And I was listening, and usually they tell you, okay, next visit, we're going to do this and that. And I was listening, and it was nothing of what they had said the previous time. So I asked the assistant, are you sure you have the right person? And it wasn't me. So that's what really got me interested in it.
And I'm not sure if you answered it or said already, but what made you convert to education, like specifically?
Well, first of all, when I realized how expensive dental school was going to be, and considering how much money I had already spent on my bachelor's, first of all, it was just being realistic, and second of all, I had one education class that I had to take, and I really enjoyed the teacher. And I also, growing up, I was also able to see the impact that my mom, my aunts have had on other people. And one summer that I came back, I actually went to school with my mom because they're year-round, so she was in there in the summer. And a student actually went to go visit her, and it was a life-changing experience for me.
So become teachers.
It really is a great profession.
No,
I mean,
I applaud it now because that's what I wanted to do, right? But I have friends too that already graduated, and to be very honest, there's a couple that failed, like teaching. Like they just couldn't do it. But then there's others that really excel. Like this one friend that I know, she's like already being looked at for like teacher of the year. She's only been teaching for like 2, 3 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there's some that it is for them, and then of course there's others like they just couldn't handle it. They end up quitting or doing something else.
yeah, it's definitely not for everybody, and of course it has its own challenges. But the nice thing about it is you have immediate feedback. You can definitely see the rewards of the job.
Other questions? A unique perspective this time, because yesterday we had Ruben come in. He went to UT for a little bit, but he was primarily here. Erin was gone for the entire time. So, anybody else curious about what it's like to be gone or what that could possibly mean? I'm pretty sure some of you, actually that's not true. I'm going to guess all of you at some point would like to go. Everyone always wants to leave El Paso. Like, and all of you are like, yep, that's exactly what I want to do too. So any other questions or comments in regards to what that particular experience is like? It is very different. It is extremely different.
Well, she mentioned that she went to the service. How long did you stay in the service?
I was in the service for 4 years. I did the National Guard.
Oh, the National Guard. You were not actually in the service.
Well, I was in the service, I just wasn't active.
You were a weekend warrior, what they say.
No, I was an everyday warrior still. I took it seriously.
Really?
Was that why you were going to school, or you had?
No, I had already graduated. I joined the summer after I graduated.
Don, I'm curious. I'm from South Carolina, and this place is a culture shock. You went to Oklahoma. What would you say is different? Because a lot of people in this town have never left El Paso.
I actually went to basic training in South Carolina. Oklahoma was completely different for me. I taught 2nd grade, and I was shocked. I mean, I thought, Sparks was bad. Oklahoma was bad. I had kids that would come to school that their last meal was lunch, and they didn't eat again until breakfast at school the next day. I had kids that would go home and nobody was there. I think for most of us, we always had somebody there, whether it was an older sister, a grandma, mom, and I think that was definitely the biggest culture shock for me, was the family unit. And it was very surprising.
Like those students you had who went home by themselves, how independent were they at such a young age?
Oh, they were extremely independent, and heaven forbid you tell them that they had their shoes on the wrong feet. They were already mini adults.
What would you say that's the difference from here in terms of the adults? Young adults, 18-year-olds.
The immaturity. It's really sad. I mean, the school that I'm at, even though I teach middle school, I still get to see the high schoolers, and it's really sad that it takes them way past high school to grow up. And the respect. The kids in Oklahoma, they were horribly behaved, but there was always the respect.
I had a very similar experience.
And it's really sad because, I mean, I just graduated from high school in 2005, and it has completely changed. I mean, when I was in middle school and high school, yeah, there were kids that were, they would misbehave, but no one ever cussed out the teacher, no one ever talked back to the teacher, and now that's all gone away. Yeah, I've been called every name in the book by students and parents, and it was a slap in the face, it really was.
You mean here, right?
When you went to the National Guard, because you had a degree, was that already, like, did they take that consideration,
Oh,
or did you
yeah.
have to start?
Oh no, I didn't start from the bottom. I actually went in with rank because of my degree. And it was really interesting because I was supposed to go to officer school, and the reason why I had that opportunity was because of my degree. So the drill sergeants knew that I was going to go to officer school, so they treated me completely different than everybody else. I was literally the scum of the bucket because how dare you think you can go to officer school? But in the long run, it was actually better for me.
So it treated you differently in a bad way?
Oh yeah, in a bad way. I had a drill sergeant that was this tall, and that lady, I'll never forget her. She was my worst nightmare. Every single day, it was, oh, Noyes, you think you can do it because you're going to go to officer school. Why are you better than me? I'm like, okay, I'll show you why I'm better than you.
Other questions or comments?
Do you feel teachers here in El Paso or Texas in general, or in the country, are fairly compensated for what they do?
Actually, here in El Paso, because I've been looking at other cities, we actually make more here in El Paso than in bigger cities like Houston, Dallas, which is a good thing. Do I think we're fairly compensated? No. I feel like I'm a mother, a nurse, a teacher, a counselor, everything to the students that I work with, which I love, and that's why I love teaching. But, people think, you're just a teacher. You get to leave at 4 o'clock, you have your summers off, you have your weekends off. In all reality, no, we don't. I'm already getting ready for next year. On the weekends, fortunately, I don't have very many kids, so I don't have to do a lot of grading, but it's still emotionally draining. I come home and the first thing I do is I just tell everything to my fiance. Oh my God, you're never gonna believe this and this and this and this. You have to vent. And I don't think a lot of people realize the amount of work that teachers put into their job. And like he said, there's good and bad. There's always good teachers and bad teachers, just like in every other profession. But the good teachers that you have, they're the people that you're always gonna remember.
And they teach English.
No, they teach math.
I have a question. You said in your previous years that you followed a boyfriend down to the school. Which school was that one?
To North Texas.
That was to North Texas. And how did that work out? Did y'all stay, did you stay
Oh,
on
no,
campus? Did y'all have an apartment?
Oh, I lived close to campus because he lived about 45 minutes away. But even when I was going to UTSA, I would drive almost every weekend to Dallas to go visit him. And it taught me a lot. It taught me, it was my first love and all of that. But
Did you have family out there?
no, I did. That's why I clinged so much, because it was, especially when I went to Dallas, it was the only person that I knew.
That's a good question. And that's something that's often not really looked at when it comes to obstacles you face in school. Sometimes that gets in the way too. It really, really does.
And I think what helped is that we didn't live together.
That what?
We didn't live together. So I still had my independent time. I think if we would have lived together, I probably would have missed school a lot. You know, oh, it's too far away, I'm gonna be late. So it made a big difference not living together.
That's good too. Anyone else? Like with yesterday, if you want to speak to Erin, obviously she'll be available after class. If you guys have any questions or something dawns on you, or you're curious about exploring that further, about going away to college and ultimately what that means, just simply let me know, and it's one step between you and her, and it's not a big deal. All right. But with that, thank you.